The world is divided into two groups of people: those who are consumed by debt and those who are fueled by it. To the worker, debt is a weight, a monthly bill that drains their life force. But to the architect, debt is a propellant. Debt is the only legal way for a private citizen to print currency without a license. Most people are taught to fear debt. They are told to live within their means and pay off their mortgages. This is the advice of the tenant. The landlord knows that in a system built on inflation, the worst thing you can own is cash, and the best thing you can own is a low-interest obligation. You don't want to be debt-free. You want to be bad debt-free. Bad debt buys you consumables that rot. Good debt buys you assets that breathe. This is the alchemy used by the top 0.1%. It is a three-step cycle that allows for infinite growth without ever triggering a tax event. First, buy. You acquire a high authority asset. This could be real estate, a sovereign digital brand, or a protocol-based node. You aren't looking for a job. You are looking for a jurisdiction. Second, borrow. Instead of selling the asset to get cash, which would trigger a capital gains tax, you borrow against the asset. The bank gives you liquidity, and because a loan is not income, the government cannot touch it. The bank isn't giving you a loan. They are giving you a tax-free exit. You get the spending power of the asset's value without ever losing the asset itself. Third, die. You hold the asset until the end of your life, letting the value appreciate while the debt is serviced by the asset's yield, or eventually settled by your estate in a way that minimizes inheritance tax through a step-up in basis. The signature truth of the 2026 economy: if you sell your assets for cash, you have already lost. Why did the elite move so much faster than the middle class? It's because of the velocity of capital. The average person saves $100,000, spends it on a business, and now they have $0 in the bank and a business that might take 5 years to pay them back. Their capital has stopped moving. The architect takes that same $100,000, places it into a collateralized account, borrows $80,000 against it at 5%, and buys the business with the bank's money. Now, they still have the $100,000 growing in a high-yield environment, and they own the business. Their money is in two places at once. This is quantum finance. While the world is playing a linear game of save and spend, you are playing a multi-dimensional game of collateralize and conquer. How does this work for a digital operator? In the old world, you needed a physical building to get a loan. In the new world, we use asset-backed liquidity. When you own a YouTube channel with a loyal, high net worth audience, you own an attention asset. When you own a ghost business with recurring software revenue, you own a cash flow asset. Wall Street and private lenders are now underwriting digital infrastructure. You take your digital territory, you place it in a trust or a sovereign holding company, and you use that as collateral. You aren't spending money. You are deploying capital that costs you 5% to make 20%. The spread between the cost of debt and the yield of the asset is where the architect lives. To execute Debt Alchemy, you must stop operating as an individual. An individual is a target for taxes and liabilities. A sovereign holding company is a fortress. By wrapping your digital assets, your newsletters, your IP, your code, into a corporate structure, you transform personal income into corporate treasury. Lenders don't want to lend to you. They want to lend to the cash flow of your machine. This shift in structure is the difference between being a freelancer and being a founder. In this framework, your lifestyle becomes a corporate expense for maintaining the CEO asset, and your liquidity comes from credit lines secured by the company's valuation. You become the pilot of a vehicle that owns everything and possesses nothing. Here is why this is alchemy. We are currently in a cycle of global currency devaluation. When you take out a loan today, you are borrowing expensive dollars. When you pay it back in 10 years, you are paying it back with cheap dollars. Inflation is a hidden tax on the saver, but it is a massive subsidy for the debtor. The government is effectively paying you to stay in debt. If you owe $10 million and the currency devalues by 10%, your real debt just shrank by $1 million, while you did absolutely nothing. The architect doesn't pray for low inflation. The architect is positioned to profit from it. You are shorting the dollar while longing the asset. Your micro execution task for today. Stop looking at your credit score as a badge of good behavior and start looking at it as a leverage capacity. Audit your current assets. Do you have equity sitting lazy in a property or a business? That is trapped energy. An asset that isn't being leveraged is a dormant engine. Now that you understand the alchemy of the money, you need to understand the geometry of the map. I've already laid out the blueprint for the modern land grab. Watch that next to see where to park this unlocked capital. The system wants you to be a saver. NextGen Wealth Insights wants you to be a strategist. I will see you in the machine.